So I'm making a second video for the day. Yesterday I wasn't able to make a video, so I got to make two today to make up for my lost time. I always try to have two videos ahead. That way if something happens, like yesterday, I can go ahead and still get a video out without getting behind. But I always got to make two that day. So as I said yesterday, it's still pretty sloppy wet, but it hasn't rained for several hours now, you know, over, well, I guess about 30 hours. It's still pretty soupy, but I got to get this grass cut. It's just getting overwhelming. So hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to cut some grass. But right here, I mean, it's just mud. And if I try to cut it, of course, it's gonna, the lawnmower's just gonna sink. I'm sure a lot of people remember this property. When we first moved in here, it was overgrown and it had become a dump. It was just an absolute dump. I mean, right here we have a lot of the metal that we've picked up over the, you know, just all over the property, and we kind of consolidated here. And we take a little bit to town. Every time we go to town, we try to take a little bit, but then more gets piled on. Down here in the woods, I don't know, that's pretty grown up right now. You probably can't see it, but I'll go down there. Down in the woods, there's just a big scrap pile of metal, just junk. I don't know if I'll ever get that out. But I would say we've done a lot of work in the last 2 years cleaning this place up to a pretty nice, satisfactory level. It's, in my opinion, I like it a lot. Of course, you get the critics. They can find problems with everything. And I guess they're just angry people. Just can never be happy about anything. So here's this big pile of junk. Just everything, freezers and big concrete blocks, foundation, chimneys, more metal, blenders, just all kinds of trash. I don't know why they were trying to fill in the creek, but it looks like what they were doing. They were trying to fill this creek in for some reason. But that's what they did back in the day, I guess. One of the things that people like to talk about is my frugalness. Of course, they got names calling techniques down for me, but I try to save as much money as possible. I wouldn't be able to do any of this if I wasn't trying to save money. We bought the property for $4,200. It was a lot of work to clean it up. How many people can buy a property that has woods? And if I calculated this out, if I cut these trees down correctly, I have enough firewood here to last me the rest of my life. Of course, we got most of our firewood from off-site. People giving away free firewood, we go pick it up. So I haven't had to cut very many trees. I don't think I've cut any trees. I've cut dead trees. Oh, and I cut a couple sickly trees over here. I don't have to cut trees and I still have my wooded area. Then we built a tiny house. Now, what's the purpose of building a tiny house? To be frugal. And this goes into other aspects. Electricity. If I had a big house, it would take a lot more electricity to run it, because then you're filling the space. You got refrigerators and TVs and all that stuff. So over time, you're just putting more electrical appliances in it. But if you keep your house small, it's easier to heat, easier to power. So everything we've tried to do at a reduced cost to show that it can be done. And it doesn't take a lot of effort to do it. I probably put 4 hours a day here. So think about that. Somebody said, oh, this is a rough life. And I said, I don't think it is. It's not as near as rough as regular life. Having to go to work 8, 12 hours a day to a boss that's always cranky because he's not making enough money. But here, I put in 4 hours on the property. I don't ever work that hard. When I was getting the firewood, we got 15 years worth of firewood. When I was collecting that, I was working pretty hard. But now I don't work that hard. And I can just kind of relax and enjoy life. Enjoy the pretty days like this, come out in the woods. And I mean, isn't that the point? I'm always told that I need to get a $10,000 item for a $10 problem. And I just don't understand that. Why do you want to spend money on things that you don't need to spend money on? Somebody told me that I needed to spend money to build this thing for the garden because that would help keep the water out of the garden, all this rainwater. So you want me to spend $10,000, $15,000 $5,000 to get a 10-cent tomato. I mean, really, that's what we're talking about. So why am I doing that? Not to mention all the effort that I have to put into building it. So money spent, time spent, or I can just let the garden dry out and till it when it's dry. It's frustrating that it's so wet and that we've had such a wet year. But why grow a garden? I mean, if you're going to sell your vegetables and it's a year-long business, sure, then you're going to want to do whatever you can to maximize production. But when you're just feeding 2 people, I don't see it. The chicken setup that I got here, I kind of did this on purpose, so everybody could realize that it's not that difficult. One person suggested to get a trampoline. Take the trampoline off, or even leave it on. Put chicken wire around the trampoline legs. That would make a perfect chicken run. So there are folks out there who do think like I do. And you can go on Facebook Marketplace and find these things all the time. These little tents, you can find them all the time. It says, oh, it needs a new, top on it. But I just got a tarp. That tarp wasn't that expensive, what, 30 or 40 bucks? Get a tarp, throw it on there. And now, having a lifestyle that you can enjoy becomes feasible. The problem is people want 2 things at the same time. They want things to look nice and fancy because they want to keep up with the Joneses, but they want the simplistic life. And I'm not sure that's possible. If you think about Little House on the Prairie, Laura and Charles Ingalls had a little cabin out in the woods, out in the prairie. It was drafty and cold, and I realize it was a TV show, but I'm just wanting you to get the picture. But they weren't trying to keep up with the folks who ran the grocery store. Can't remember their name. They were fancy. I think in one of the episodes, they were the first people in the Grove, it was Maple Grove or whatever that was, that had indoor toilets. But I would imagine, if you think about it, that the Ingalls had a less stressful life. They had a peaceful life. They really enjoyed life, whereas the grocery store owner, she was always cranky and snooty and mean. So I don't care about the Joneses. That's why we lived out here in the middle of the boonies. Nobody cares that we have tents for a chicken run. So if you start thinking basics, start thinking, what do I just need to survive? And be happy. The thing is I would imagine if things went south in a hurry, which a lot of people are saying that, we're in real trouble in our society. Even the president says that worldwide food shortages, including the United States. If we're in that kind of trouble, wouldn't you like to have the security knowing that you're not going to have that kind of trouble? It may not look nice, but it's there. I've got something that I don't have to worry about this worldwide food shortage. I can just say, I got plenty of chickens and eggs. I'm doing really well. The solar panels, I get a lot of criticism on the solar panels because they sit on the ground. I don't have them off the ground. Well, first of all, that is for a reason. They're on the ground to stay cooler. The ground actually provides cooling underneath. I discovered this. I got this little laser thermometer. In the sunlight, those dark panels absorb heat. So they get pretty hot. There is an actual calculation, a scientific calculation, you can look this up, that for every degree over 70 degrees, I think it is, you lose efficiency in your solar panels. So if you can keep them cooler, you gain that efficiency. So when it gets 90 degrees outside, you're not making as much electricity. So putting them up in the air, even though the wind may be blowing, we don't get that much air around here. We don't get a lot of wind because we're surrounded by trees. So I have found that the ground keeps them cooler. Is it pretty? No, it's not pretty at all. Grass is growing up around it, and I'm always having to hand pull the grass. And right now, with it being so wet, the grass is just growing so fast. But it is serving its purpose. It's doing a great job. And so when everybody else is struggling to pay their electric bill, I don't have to struggle. I think if you're coming to this channel, you obviously have some sort of feeling that you want to do something more basic, more minimalistic. But you really got to start prioritizing what it is you want. Do you want the fancy house with all the fancy things? and live off-grid? It may not be possible. I mean, I recognize there are some YouTubers that show this glamorous life, but they also don't, I don't think, actually live in their homestead, in their off-grid house. I think they got this big mansion because if you look, they always got brand new clothes. My clothes are always ripped and stained and messed up, dirty, because I come out here and I got to work. I mean, look at this path that I've created. It is so muddy. I come down here every day and go back up the hill. These other off-grid channels, they don't show this kind of stuff where there's actually foot traffic and mud. They don't show their dirty, wet boots. They have these really nice pictures. And their thumbnails, if you ever look at their thumbnails, they show scantily clad, dressed women. So I feel like a lot of it must be fake. So I'm trying to show you the true realistic lifestyle. And there's nothing wrong with this lifestyle. I really enjoy life much more than I ever have before. Not having to worry about making tons of money. That's what was always confusing to me is I went to work, worked 12, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, making money, made more money than I've ever made in my life. And for what? I never got to spend it. I was heading towards a heart attack. What was I going to use the money for? Buy a truck so I can run it back and forth to work every day? That's exactly what I did. The truck ended up, I think in the first year, had 20,000 miles on it. So if you can check out that super thanks button, I'd really appreciate it. So I hope I can inspire you to scale back your priorities so you can have a perfect lifestyle. Thanks for watching.